overthrow the government, right? Showing that Smith's team analyzed the phone.
No, it was when Trump sent all those people to the fucking White House to stop the count.
Outrage among Republicans.
Stop the certification of his loss.
That the Biden administration used the DOJ to attack the GOP and Trump for political purposes. So in early December, Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, subpoenaed Smith to testify behind closed doors. Now, Jordan did this even though Smith offered to do a public hearing on Capitol Hill. Ultimately, Smith testified privately on December 17th, and now we have transcripts. So you case against Trump. Now, interestingly, when asked if he would have called Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, or Peter Navarro as witnesses in the case against Trump, Smith said no, because he considered them, quote, highly uncooperative.
You mentioned that one of the reasons that House Republicans wanted to have this hearing was the fact that Smith's team had tried to access their phone records. Did that come up in this testimony?
Yes, it did. Smith confirmed that his team did get phone records of some GOP senators, but they were only timestamps of the calls in and around the January 6th attack, and not the context of the call itself. He defended his team's seizing of these records and laid blame on Trump's actions, which prompted the entire investigation.
Donald Trump directed his co-conspirators to call these people to further the legal proceedings. He chose to do that. If Donald Trump had chosen to call a number of Democratic senators, we would have got no records for a number of Democratic senators.
Now, Scott, the analysis of phone-pulled records is a common investigative tactic, but there are ongoing debates about whether the DOJ should be able to use this tactic against a sitting member of Congress.
The January 6th case and the election case was such a big deal that it went over U.S. politics. But many legal analysts thought that the case about classified documents was actually the stronger legal case. I'm curious what Smith said about that case.
So here, we didn't learn much. Smith was largely mum on this investigation, citing a federal judge's order barring him from really disclosing details on this case. Though Smith did make a point in saying he was open to sharing more details about this classified documents case. He just can't do it now, legally.
Well, Garrett, thank you so much.
You bet. How far are we from home?
10 miles.
Down from my unsung hero in the series for the in the rain. My unsung hero tells the stories of people whose kindness left a lasting impression on someone else. Today's story comes from Natalie Cook. 2 months ago, Cook took her 2-year-old foster daughter to the park. The little girl was born prematurely, and she uses a walker.
Yeah, thanks for getting me out of the house.
These kind of outings can be stressful. But never knows how the other kids are.
Some kids will run off with her walker, or they just stare at her. This time we went to the park, she was just running around like she normally did with her walker, going from equipment to equipment, swinging, having a good time as she does. And a little boy ran up to her and just said, "What's wrong with her?" And I literally had no idea what to say. I froze. Wasn't sure how to explain her disability to an adult, let alone a child. And I just told him, well, she was just born tiny, and she's just taking a while to catch up. So the little boy, he said, okay. He ran off to play with his friends, and then a few minutes later, he came back, and he started playing with my daughter. He was pushing her on the swing. He was bringing the walker to her.
Saying hi.
And then he started to even pick up on the sign language I was using to ask her if she wanted to keep swinging until we're done. And then he started to get all of his friends to be involved as well. He started telling them as well about her disability and what she could do, not what she couldn't do. And he was like a proud little mom. He said, look what she can do. She was born really tiny and she's trying to walk. And before I knew it, the playground was cheering her along. They were all learning the sign language to go along with her. They were asking questions, helping her up the slides. And I was just in awe because I never seen anything like this at the park. And my heart was just
over there, right?
so full. My friend looked over at me and she said, I have goosebumps.
Am I right?
He saw past her disability and just saw that
Sore legs.
she was a child that just another kid to him, and he could include her. It was just a really sweet moment to know there's still kids out there like that, and my daughter's going to be in good hands as she gets older.
Natalie Cook lives in the Chicago suburbs. You can find more stories of unsung heroes and learn how to submit your own hiddenbrain.org.
Sometimes life can get in the way of meeting our ambitions, right? Coming up next, NPR's Life Kit podcast gives some practical daily life tips to set you up for success in 2026. Right here on All Things Considered. This is CPR News and KRCC. I'm Nathan Fernando Francis. What a wild ride 2025 was, right? CPR and KRCC was there as
kitty you call Dot
Denver. Take a look
was
at
on
these
that
wonderful photos of CPR.
where that second
The clouds really filled in
thing
today
of
across
cheese
Denver
was.
Front Range this January 1st. They're going to
blue
break up
container,
overnight though, with forecasters
plastic
saying
in it.
it's mostly sunny tomorrow.
It
with
fell off at
60
sleeping,
degrees.
falling
In
off.
Colorado,
It fell off.
hang around overnight. with
While you
lows
was in it?
30s, and
Huh?
Grand Junction
While you was in
showers
it, it fell off?
overnight,
Yeah.
temps in the 30s.
And
Tomorrow, an early chance for showers.
I turned around and I picked it up, I pulled the plastic off of it, I put the
Support comes
container
from
in there.
Common Spirit Health, hospitals,
The cat looked
clinics,
at
and
me and was
caregivers
like,
all connected to advance
"What just
healthcare with
happened?"
human kindness in Colorado,
Like,
Kansas,
I
and
don't
Utah.
know. I
Common
think it
Spirit
got up
Health,
and it wasn't
human
awake yet,
kindness lives
just
here.
except for Phil. It wasn't a long fall. Just enough to wake him up. Yay. Oh, sweet home.
Amy said she really enjoyed chatting with you yesterday.
Huh?
Amy said she really enjoyed chatting with you yesterday.
Yeah, I did too. It was a lot of fun for both of us.
From all of us, thank you for being
Stalking
part of
candy.
Colorado Public Radio.
Huh?
The one that was stocking candy at my store?
CPR serve
Yeah.
Colorado. You
Her
make
name's
sure
Amy.
that reporting is thorough and local.
She's been there for like
You
straight
choose
out of
to
high
support
school.
What matters.
Wow.
Thank you
20
for
some
keeping
years.
CPR going strong.
I was thinking about working over there, but
Support for NPR comes from the station
Davey came
and
around.
from the Wallace Foundation, an independent, nonpartisan research foundation, collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at
I've always
wallacefoundation.org.
loved those lights over there.
From Jarl and Pamela Mill, focusing on civil
Cars,
liberties,
everything
foster
else,
youth, public radio,
stuff
and the
all the
arts. And from the William T. Grant Foundation, supporting research to improve the
All
lives
that
of young
quiet-
people. At WTGrant.
all that valley out there.
.org.
It's actually a city here. People live in it.
It's All Things Considered from NPR
Oh,
News.
dear.
I'm Scott Tetford. We regularly get good tips from our friends at NPR's Life Kit about how to
Put that,
navigate everyday life. The podcast talks
Firecracker thing on the top up there for a minute.
how to manage money more efficiently.
I thought it was pretty neat. I was walking around it.
Back today with some of the most
You
popular.
know, I'm just gonna put it in my
These Life Kit host Marielle
collection
Zapata.
box of
Marielle.
treasures over here with my
So
Rusty
I was
aluminum
starting
can.
out by talking movement.
rusty steel
Yeah,
can.
this one is about how to move more, but it's also about how to spend less time on your phone. And these are two topics we talk about a lot on Life Kit. The tip is called Surf the Urge to Scroll.
Okay.
We talked to Diana Hill. She's a clinical psychologist, and she co-wrote a book called I Know I Should Exercise, But... And it's all about reasons that we don't move and how to get over them. So basically the idea is when you have an urge to look at your phone, which I do every 2 seconds basically. Yeah, it's like
We sure got
I
more
just want to
stones than
click
you
the
did.
side button and see if there are any notifications. Or I just want to check on Slack. Like, did anybody send me a message? You can surf that urge. Just ride it out.
The goal with urge surfing is to learn how to get on the board of the urge, ride it, notice that it increases over time, and stay on it without giving in. But it's not a willful staying on. It's actually paying attention to the sensation in your body of the urge, and then noticing it come back down again without acting.
And then here's where the movement comes in, which is, this is a perfect opportunity to get up from your chair, or to stretch, or to do some jumping jacks, do some calf raises, dance around your living room, because we know we're not moving enough. And so if you pair these two things together, it's sort of a this, not that.
I really like that. I think I have been more mindful of how much time I spend on my phone this year than a lot of previous years. And even then, I'm thinking about it, it's still so hard.
Hey,
to
look at
not
that, a
do it.
spaceship.
So that's a useful way to think.
Yeah, I block some of my apps. So I have like a program that you can block the apps, whichever ones you want, and then you have to tap this
Yeah.
device. And And so I do that before I go to bed so that when I wake up, if I pick up my phone and I'm still in bed, I can't look at Instagram. I can't look at my email.
So phone's obviously a big topic of focus for Life Kit. Finances are another big one.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna hit you with 2 pieces of money advice that stuck with me this year.
Okay.
One is if you have credit card debt and you're struggling to pay it, you can actually call your credit card company and tell them, and they can offer you what's called a forbearance plan or a hardship plan, which is some help in the short term. They can pause or lower your minimum payments, waive late fees, lower your interest rate while you get back on your feet. And this tip comes from Yaneli Espinal. She's a financial educator and the author of Mind Your Money.
If the payment due date is coming up and you don't have the money, pick up the phone and call the phone number in the back of your credit card. If you don't call them and tell them, they're going to think that you're trying to not pay them and also not let them know. And that's when it takes a really bad hit to your credit score.
Truly didn't know that was an option. It's really good to know. What's the other tip?
The other money tip we have is about investing. So when you're deciding what funds to invest your money in, say in a retirement account or a brokerage account, you want to pay really close attention to fees. And you'll see this in the expense ratio line of your fund profile. A 1% fee might sound low, but it can add up over time and really cut into your returns. So instead, you want to look for funds that have fees that are more like 0.05% or even 0. And that'll be something like an index fund or a passively managed ETF.
Let's pivot a little bit to the thing that so many of us spend time thinking about, and so many of us feel like we're not quite doing this the right way. And that's relationships with other people. Life Kit has done so many episodes on this topic. What were some of your favorite tips on that front from this year?
Yeah, this is one that's become a personal favorite for me. Start a community dinner. I talked to Samin Nosrat. She's a professional chef. She wrote the book Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, and she had a new cookbook out this year called Good Things. It was all about recipes and rituals that you can share with people you love. And she has been doing a weekly dinner, I believe on Monday nights since the pandemic. And it has become a fixture in her life. And so she really recommends this. But it's hard to make this happen, right, when everybody's busy. So the tips are pick a day and stick to it, whether it's every Monday or the first Friday of the month, or something like that. Pick a location and stick to it. And also don't feel like you need to cook really fancy meals. And she also shares this idea about making the ritual holy. And that doesn't necessarily mean religious, but sacred.
No fat candy.
By making it a regular effort and ritualizing it. That's probably step 1 of making it holy. There's community buy-in. All of us have it blocked on our calendars.
So I've started doing this with friends. I now have a community dinner that's the first Friday of every month. And I've seen this in my own life. It's one of the things I look forward to the most.
I like that because even if it's well-intentioned, that circular, let's get together, especially when people are busy. And it's just like we've been talking about this for 6 months.
Exactly.
So just make it happen, set a schedule.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one other episode we did this year, and this was a tougher one, but it's something a lot of people can relate to. Have a support friend through serious illness like cancer or something else. And I know this is something you've had personal experience with, having gone through breast cancer last year. What was the takeaway of that?
Yeah, it's that when you're supporting a friend or a loved one through cancer or any other illness, remember that you don't have to be the person who makes this all better for them or who offers them that perfect pearl of wisdom. When you go to talk to them, it's really about listening and being with them. It's not about pushing a certain agenda or trying to fix anything. So I talked to Deborah Jarvis. She's a hospital chaplain and a breast cancer survivor as well. And she said you can ask a simple question to get a sense of what kind of conversation or tone would be supportive to the person that day.
I would say something kind of general and innocuous, like, hey, so where are you with all this today? And then just wait. And they may give you an answer, and then I would say wait a little more. And then the real answer might come out.
You may not always know what to say to your friend, but curiosity is a good start.
I'm curious, was there a particular thing somebody said to you at one point that just stuck to you as like, I appreciate that kind of stuff?
I think people have asked me, what do you need right now?
Yeah.
But it's a tricky one because on the one hand, you want to be thinking about your you say to somebody, let me know if you need anything, it's hard for them to really take you up on that, you know? And so you can also just offer things. I think that was one of the most helpful things people did for me, was that when they were in the neighborhood, they would say, hey, can I bring you a smoothie? Hey, can I get you lunch? Hey, I have like the dog with me. Can we come over and say hi? That meant a lot to me.
Yeah, specific, immediate gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Marielle, thank you so much for talking about all this. Happy New Year, and good luck with the impending New Year's resolutions.
Thank you.
That was Marielle Sagana, host of NPR's Live. This is NPR News.
On this first day of the year, a conversation about fresh starts. Forgiveness is the focus of Kristen Koval's riveting novel, Penitence.
But I also don't think that when you forgive a person, you're saying that what they did was okay. You're just saying they don't need to be thrown away like trash.
Colorado Matters is at 8, CPR News and KRCC.
Supported by Select Health.
In 2025, CPR, KRCC, and Denver created some truly memorable storytelling and music. And that's thanks to members like you. Take a look at some of the highlights at cpr.org/2025 and see what your donation made possible. That's cpr.org/2025. And thank you for investing in Colorado Public Radio.
Thanks, dude. Right?
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dan Rowe. Millions of Americans who want health insurance under the Affordable Care Act are bracing for much higher premiums. The ACA subsidies expired last night. Sarah Bowden reports.
Preliminary data from December show that enrollment is down a bit compared to last December, but overall it is higher than expected. That could change over the course of this year. Cynthia Cox is a researcher at the health policy think tank KFF. She says it's kind of like the difference between putting groceries in your shopping cart and actually purchasing those groceries.
So you don't actually own those groceries until you pay for them. The same thing with health insurance. Like you can sign up, you can pick a plan, but until you pay for it, it's not your health plan.
In most states, the final deadline to sign up for a plan for 2026 is January 15th. For NPR News, I'm Sarah Bowden.
Former special counsel Jack Smith told lawmakers he believes President Trump is, quote, the most responsible person
the one that I was
in the
trying to get
conspiracy to
everything off the
overturn the
floor
results of the
from where I
2020
sit
election. The Republican House Judiciary Committee this week
all the way
released a
across.
transcript
I got all
and a
the
video
clothes up
of
there.
Smith's closed-door testimony.
Some I washed and
happened at the Capitol as part of this case does not happen without him. The other co-conspirators were doing this for his benefit. So in terms of why we would pursue a case against him, I entirely disagree with any characterization that our work was in any way meant to hamper him in the presidential election.
Smith has repeatedly offered to testify publicly. In New York, 34-year-old Zohran Mamdani is now the new mayor, the leader of the nation's biggest city, and also one of the most watched politicians in the country. He was sworn in last night and then again today in a ceremonial event at City Hall. You're listening to NPR News.
This is NPR News at KRCC. I'm Nathan Fernando Frescas. A new law that aims to make it cheaper and easier for consumers to repair electronic equipment went to effect today. CPR's Brent Berkeley.
The law is meant to give Coloradans more options to repair their busted cell phones and other electronic devices by making sure manufacturers provide documentation and information to get it fixed independently. Democratic Representative Brianna Titone was the bill's main sponsor. She says it also applies to sales between businesses and with the government.
This will save companies a ton of money. because companies will be able to hire their own in-house people if they want, or a third party. They don't have to go have the expensive contract that the manufacturer requires.
Colorado's law is one of the most expansive in the country. I'm Benta Brooklyn, CPR News.
Colorado is involved in 49 lawsuits against the Trump administration, a historically high count. CPR's
Attorney General Phil Weiser says the lawsuits have kept coming because the administration is doing things that are blatantly illegal. During part of Trump's first term, Weiser filed 11 lawsuits against the administration.
What I am taken aback by is how different the two administrations are. My standard has not changed. My behavior in this administration has changed, and it's not normal.
Weiser said many of those lawsuits are the result of funding decisions. According to the Attorney General's office, 29 of the suits so far have had favorable rulings, but the majority are still in court. Ava Kian, CPR News.
A new state law went into effect today that protects reproductive health care. CPR Health reporter John Daly.
Last year, Colorado voters approved Amendment 79. That put the right to abortion in the state constitution. It removed a prohibition on using public funds to cover abortion care and ensured state employee health insurance plans cover it. Also, the state will reimburse for it through the state Medicaid program. Here's Jack Teeter with one provider, Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains.
Despite what is happening at the federal level, you can come to Planned Parenthood if you have Medicaid. We are taking Medicaid insurance, and starting in January, Medicaid will also cover abortion care.
Opponents of the law called it too extreme for Colorado. It passed with 62% of the vote. I'm John Daly, CPR News.
Stay with us. This is CPR.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. RWJF is a national philanthropy working toward a future where health is no longer a privilege, but a right. Learn more at rwjf.org. From the Lodestar Foundation, inspired by the principle that helping those in need is a path to a happier, healthier, and more meaningful life. Learn more at lodestarfoundation.org. And from listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Scott Detroit. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has inaugurated today vowing to tackle the city's affordability crisis head on. The Democratic Socialist held a public ceremony and a block party this afternoon to celebrate his first day in office. From member station WNYC, Bridget Bergen reports events are ushering in a new era of city politics.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani was propelled into office through the work of an unrelenting army of 100,000 volunteers. That includes people like Enid David, a 32-year-old city resident who braved the frigid weather to show up for the inaugural block party.
I believe in what Zohran is going to do. I believe in his mission, I believe in his plan, and I think he can make it happen.
Organizers say some 40,000 people like David RSVP'd for the sub-freezing outdoor event, with another 4,000 people at a ticketed ceremony in front of City Hall. That's where Mamdani was introduced by Democratic Socialist All-Star Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
He will be our first immigrant mayor in over a century. And he will be the youngest mayor of New York City in generations. But most importantly, Zohran will be a mayor for all of us.
And as the city's first Muslim mayor, with his hand on a Quran, Mamdani was sworn in by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
I, Zohran Kwame Mamdani,
do solemnly swear.
Mamdani ran with a relentless focus on easing the affordability crisis facing so many New Yorkers. His pledges to freeze the rent on 1 million stabilized apartments, make buses fast and free, and provide universal child care became a ubiquitous call and response on the campaign trail. And today, he underscored his commitment to delivering on that agenda. But Mamdani will face serious hurdles, some left by his predecessor. A potential bright spot is related to childcare, which will need state funds. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has already signaled her support for expanding what the state provides as she runs for re-election this year. But she's opposed any tax increase to pay for it. Mamdani insists otherwise.
The cost of childcare will no longer discourage young adults from starting a family. Because we will deliver universal child care for the many by taxing the wealthiest few.
The incoming administration has faced scrutiny over the pace of new staff appointments. While Mamdani has picked several deputy mayors and the heads of major departments like police and fire, he announced a new schools chancellor just yesterday. Esther Fuchs of Columbia University and a former special advisor to Mayor Michael Bloomberg says she's been impressed by his selections so far.
He's really tried to balance putting in people in important operational positions who actually have experience to do the job that he doesn't really have the experience to do.
Since his election, Mamdani has been focused on broadening his tent, meeting with President Trump in D.C. and reassuring all New Yorkers that his administration will be one that protects everyone. Fuchs says the tension that will define this new era of New York City politics will be Mamdani's ability to keep his supporters from the Democratic Socialist wing of the party engaged while working with the business class to deliver his promises and, most importantly, delivering services for all New Yorkers.
They want a safe city. They want a clean city. They want parks that are beautiful and that they can take their kids out to play in the sandbox.
New York City will remain in the spotlight as Mamdani takes the reins. Fair or not, his successes and even more so his stumbles will be under a magnifying glass as people evaluate his leadership and what it might mean for the future of politics here in the city and across the country. For NPR News, I'm Bridget Bergen in New York.
Interactions between police and people having mental health crises can end badly, and that's why many cities send teams of mental health professionals to respond to those calls instead of police. But the funding for teams like that can be unreliable. And as Montana Public Radio's Aaron Bolton reports, some mobile crisis services are shutting down.
The mobile crisis team in Bozeman, Montana is heading out on a call on a snowy afternoon in the mountainous Gallatin Valley. Mobile crisis responder Evan Thiessen is on the phone, getting information from a family member of a local man in crisis.
You're doing the right thing, and we're going to make sure he gets help today, okay?
The man is confused and is trying to walk outside without shoes as temperatures hover in the low 30s. The team parks in front of the man's home. Licensed therapist Luke Forney jots down some final notes from the man's police record, which shows past instances of violence.
Especially if he's confused and upset.
Yeah.
We want to just keep an eye on that.
Ultimately, the crisis team found that the man was physically safe where he was. He didn't pose a threat to others, so they plan to check in with him in the following days. Program manager Ryan Manson says the vast majority of calls end like this one, without police having to respond at all. Police, firefighters, and community members can call the team 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I think that everyone is on the same page of seeing the value that these programs bring.
He says finding a way to keep paying for them is the hard part.
I'm confident that we're going to be here through next fiscal year. That's about as confident as I am at this point.
Mobile crisis programs in Montana have cost more than the state originally projected. Bozeman's alone has a budget of $1 million a year. On top of that, many private insurance companies don't reimburse for mobile crisis service at all. In the public insurance program, Medicaid only pays for the time spent on a call. Time that workers spend documenting those calls or waiting for the next one isn't reimbursed.
You need to pay for the capacity to be at the ready, just like we do for fire and police, regardless of whether somebody's going to be called out.
That's Angela Kimball with a nonprofit called Inseparable, which advocates for mental health policy reform. Kimball says relying on that reimbursement model alone is a huge problem for mobile crisis services across the country. Heather Saunders is with KFF, a nonpartisan health research organization. She says communities are scrambling for funding.
Broadly, it is kind of this patchwork, and there's a big question as to whether these services are sustainable across states.
Unlike Montana, some states have mandated that private insurers cover mobile crisis care. Others have implemented fees on cell phone bills to help pay for the service. And in Montana, some local communities have chipped in local tax dollars. But the town of Great Falls and Billings have shuttered their programs. There are now 6 units left in Montana. Casey Schreiner is an executive at Alluvian Health, the clinic that used to run the program in Great Falls.
We need a completely revamped system to pay for these services.
Montana health officials acknowledge mobile teams are struggling, despite the state contributing some financial support. They say they are considering increasing what Medicaid reimburses for each service call. But Schreiner says the state needs to do more.
Is it a priority for our state, or is it not?
For NPR News, I'm Aaron Bolton in Bozeman, Montana.
That story comes from NPR's partnership with Montana Public Radio and KFF Health News. You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News. It's cold and snowy in much of the U.S. right now, but hard as it may be to believe in some parts of the country, heat season will eventually come again, and hotter summers are increasingly a risk for American workers. This year, the federal government is considering new rules to protect employees from excessive heat. A new study looks at what matters most for keeping workers safe. NPR's Alejandra Barunda reports.
People have known forever that hot weather can be dangerous for workers. Even ancient Egyptians worried about dehydration for people building the pyramids. And the problem is just as critical for people working outside now. And it's not just heat stroke that's a risk.
Heat makes people slower to react and worse at making decisions.
Adam Dean is a political scientist who researches labor conditions at George Washington University.
And that means that farm workers driving a tractor or a construction worker operating equipment is more likely to have a fatal accident on a hot day.
Dean is the lead author of a new analysis in the journal Health Affairs. It looked at workplace deaths related to heat in California, which was the first state to pass protections for people who work outdoors. The researchers compared deaths in California with states nearby that didn't have those rules. The study found California's rules likely saved dozens of lives every year, even as climate change has made those heat risks more intense. But Dean says fine-tuning the rule took some trial and error.
When California first adopted a heat standard in 2005, it was ineffective.
Dean says the original guidelines weren't specific enough. They said employers, like farmers for example, had to offer their workers water, shade, and rest when it's hot. But when inspectors showed up, they sometimes found problems like undrinkable water. So the state clarified. Water had to be drinkable and free, not just there, and there needed to be enough shade for all workers during breaks. The state also ramped up their inspections and launched an intensive campaign to educate workers about their rights. Dean says all those changes made a real difference.
I think a critical lesson is that merely passing a heat standard is not enough. It was only after the state launched a statewide enforcement campaign that we started to see deaths decrease relative to surrounding states.
The new study was published as the federal government is currently considering new heat rules that would apply nationally. Worker advocates want it to mimic California's more specific rules, while many employer groups prefer a more flexible standard. The new study joins several other analyses published this year that found standards, especially strict ones, can protect workers. Barack Al-Ahmed is an occupational health researcher at Harvard University. He says all the studies use different data sets and methods.
And in science, you like to see that. You like to see this consistency and these additional layers of evidence.
The future of the federal heat rules is uncertain. They were first proposed under President Biden's administration, and the Trump administration is now reviewing them. In the meantime, several states and cities have adopted their own rules in recent years, and others, like New Mexico and Arizona, are currently considering them. Alejandra Barunda, NPR News.
For a stupid loan. Why do they have you download an app for a stupid loan?
So they can get your information.
Huh?
So they can get your information and get into your phone?
Yeah.
Don't download the app.
Huh?
They don't download the app.
I did.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
And this is CPR News and KRCC. I'm Nathan Fernando Frescas. Cellist Yo-Yo Ma has a new podcast. It's called Our Common
That
Nature.
sounds like to me like they want to get into your stuff.
Hear how he connects music with nature and
You're gonna get my stuff.
next on All Things Considered. Hope you're having a lovely evening, the
Not to
first
get
of
mine either.
2026. If you have a burning question and you live in southern Colorado, about it. Peak Curiosity is a community-driven reporting series for KRCC in collaboration with Colorado Hunters from CPR News. Whether you do
to. What? Come on, guys. Monty. on. Come on. Help me out here.